The day I got fired, I handed my boss a certificate. He handed me 2 words: budget cuts. And one insult I'll never forget. "We're implementing budget cuts, and your position's been eliminated," Logan Pierce said, sprawled in his overpriced leather chair like he was ordering a $5 latte instead of gutting my career. His voice was breezy, too breezy for the axe he'd just swung. "Thanks for everything, Granny." Granny. The word hit like a freight train, sharper than the firing itself. I sat there, pinned to the chair in his corner office with its smug riverfront view, the air thick with betrayal and the faint hum of his overworked AC. 10 minutes ago, I'd handed him that certificate, still crisp from the printer, proving Samantha Ray, our 24-year-old intern, had completed her training under me. 4 months of my sweat, 3 decades of industry scars, distilled into that girl's shaky resume. I'd expected a nod, a handshake, maybe a half-hearted good job. Instead, Granny. "Today's your last day," Logan said when I didn't respond, his eyes flicking to his phone like I was a pop-up ad he could swipe away. "HR's got her final paycheck and severance. 2 weeks' pay. 2 weeks. After 7 years of blood, late nights, and impossible deadlines. After permits I'd wrestled through Omaha's bureaucratic hell, favors called in, bridges unburned, egos massaged. After locking in the $35 million Riverside development project this week.
2 damn weeks."
I straightened, voice trembling but edged with steel. "The same week we secured Riverside? That's your budget cut?" Logan adjusted his Armani tie, like I was the inconvenience here. "Strategic restructuring," he muttered, waving a hand like he was shooing a fly. "Samantha's taking over. You trained her. She's ready." Samantha Ray. The Instagram princess who didn't know a variance from a vending machine until I spoon-fed her the difference. But with 87,000 followers and a knack for pouting into a camera, she was apparently leadership gold in Logan's shiny new vision. "Will there be a transition?" I asked, clinging to composure like a lifeline in a blizzard. "Riverside's permits are still pending, critical ones." "Nope," he cut in, standing now, brushing me off like lint on his cufflinks. "She's got it covered. HR will help you pack. Security's escorting you out by noon." Security. Like I'd flip his desk or shred his precious files in a tantrum. I stood, chin high, each word carved from ice. "Thanks for the opportunity." I didn't say the rest, that this was spineless, short-sighted, a middle finger to everything I'd built. That betting on flash over grit would sink them faster than a leaky boat in a storm. As I walked out, Samantha lingered at reception, her faux concern cracking under a gleam of triumph. She'd known, plotted, smiled while they plunged the knife. I caught her eye, and she looked away, guilty, but not enough. In my car, alone in the garage, I gripped the wheel until my knuckles whitened. A sob clawed at my throat. One raw, ugly sound escaped before I choked it back. I punched the dashboard, pain sparking through my hand. "You'll regret this," I hissed, voice low and lethal. Something clicked, buried deep in a drawer I hadn't opened in years. They'd regret this, but not how they'd expect. Flashback. My first day at Everline, 7 years ago. Logan, tie crooked and cheap, shaking my hand in a rented dump above a thrift store. "Linda, you're our lifeline," he'd said, eyes desperate. Now he'd cut that line and slapped a nickname on the wound. Samantha's smug glance didn't break me. It lit a fuse. I wasn't a relic. I was a goddamn volcano, and they'd just poked the crater. Hey, if you're hooked on watching these snakes squirm, hit that subscribe button. This is just the tremor before the quake. The cardboard box glared at me from the passenger seat. My nameplate, Emily's graduation photo, a chipped Permit Queen mug from last Christmas, a half-eaten pack of gum. 7 years at Everline, reduced to a sad yard sale haul in a beat-up carton. Not just papers and old gum. Somewhere in there was a folder I'd kept untouched. Just in case. Insurance. They'd forgotten, but I hadn't. I sat in their sterile garage, engine off, staring at the steering wheel. Driving away felt like surrender, so I stayed, hollowed out, the silence pressing against my skull like a vice. My chest buzzed with a dull ache, but underneath it, something hotter flickered alive, rage, slow and jagged, like a match struck in a pitch-black room. It wasn't just the firing. It was the shrug. Budget cuts, Granny. Like I was a dusty relic they'd humored too long. Like I hadn't dragged this company from a 5-person flop above a thrift store to a downtown name with a glass front office. Like I hadn't spent nights decoding zoning laws, schmoozing councilmen with weak coffee and weaker promises, catching code slips that'd have cost millions in lawsuits. Logan Pierce had begged me to join 7 years ago. I could still smell the stale air in that cramped office, hear his pitch through the buzz of a dying fluorescent bulb. Linda, we need your name. Your rep, your Rolodex. You're our ticket out of the red tape graveyard. Back then, he'd kissed the ground I walked on, a scrappy kid playing CEO with a thrift store tie.
Now?
I was the cut. Riverside was my crown. $35 million of riverfront gold-eyed midwifed through a bureaucratic nightmare. Months of favors, late-night calls to Tom Walters at City Planning, every I dotted, every T crossed, every handshake earned. And they handed it to Samantha Ray, the girl who'd blinked at me last month, all doe-eyed, and asked, "What's a variance?" I'd mentored her, liked her, until I caught her parroting my phrases in meetings, sipping lattes with Logan behind smoked glass, her heels clicking louder each week. I'd seen the signs. Logan canceling check-ins, Samantha shutting her laptop when I walked in. I'd chalked it up to stress. Loyalty does that. It blinds you. But not anymore. This wasn't a fluke. They'd drain me, my systems, my contacts, my shortcuts, then toss me like a used rag. They thought I'd shuffle off quietly, some sweet old lady with a box and a pat on the head. They didn't know I'd built my career on outlasting bastards like them. I opened my laptop, fingers trembling. Not from fear, but from the hum of a plan I'd buried under years of loyalty. A single folder glowed in the dark. Untitled, untouched, unstoppable. I called Emily. "Mom, why aren't you at work?" Her voice was bright, oblivious, probably mid-sip of her morning smoothie. "Not anymore." My throat cracked, betraying me. What? Fury replaced her cheer as I unloaded. The 3-minute acts, the 2-week pittance, Samantha's takeover, Granny. "That's ageism," she snapped, her law school brain kicking in.
Sue them, Mom.
"Nail them to the wall." "Maybe," I said, steadying, a smirk tugging at my lips. "But I've got something sharper." "What?" she demanded, suspicious now. "Mom, when I was 12, I watched you wrestle permits like they were dragons," she said, voice fierce. Now I see the Slayer waking up. Her words hit like a war drum. I wasn't alone in this fight. I glared at Everline's glass tower through the windshield. They're about to meet the real Linda Carter. Emily's graduation, 5 years back. I'd missed it, stuck in a city council meeting, pushing a permit through to save Everline's ass from a $2 million delay. She'd forgiven me over pizza that night, laughing. "You're a badass, Mom." Now that badass was awake, and she was pissed. Telling Emily didn't just light the fuse, it handed me the match. Her voice shook with pride, but mine burned with something darker, a promise I'd kept silent too long. Want to see me flip the script? Subscribe now. Next part's a wildfire. That night, I sat at my kitchen table, tea cold and untouched, laptop glowing like a war room beacon. Emily had begged me to sleep. "Mom, you need rest." But sleep was for the defeated. Not me. Not after Logan's sneer, Samantha's crocodile tears, and that gutless Granny still ringing in my ears. I opened a folder no one knew existed, one I hadn't touched in months. But tonight, it called to me like thunder. A single line stared back. Clause 17, final signatory authority, reserved to the compliance lead unless revoked in writing. Logan never read the fine print. 3 years ago, Tom Walters at City Planning had been drowning in permit chaos. "Linda, we're screwed," he'd said over burnt coffee in a windowless break room, his tie stained with desperation. "The city's a mess, fix this." So I'd built Carter Compliance Solutions, an independent consultancy, fully registered, separate from Everline. Every major project's permits, including Riverside, ran through me. My digital signature. My chokehold. Logan had called it genius once, clapping my shoulder at a company happy hour, beer sloshing in his hand. You're a game changer, Linda. He'd forgotten, or never cared, that without my sign-off, Riverside was a $35 million paperweight, a gleaming blueprint collecting dust. I clicked into the Riverside folder and checked the permits. Pending. Every single one, locked behind my name. They'd fired the one person who could finish their golden goose. Morons didn't even cover it. They were walking corpses who hadn't noticed the grave yet. I texted Rachel and Gwen, my attorney pal since college. Coffee tomorrow. 7 a.m. urgent. Bring your sharpest pen. We met at the bean counter, a downtown dive where the espresso hit like a fist and the barista, Gus, knew your order and your sins. I laid it out. The firing, the folder, my ace in the hole. Over the clatter of mugs and morning rush. Rachel whistled, eyes gleaming behind her horn-rimmed glasses. Linda, that's not leverage. That's a damn nuke. Legally? I pressed, leaning in, my pulse thumping. If those permits need your signature, they're dead without you, or a fat check to buy you back. Logan assumed you'd roll over like a good little retiree. His funeral. Draft a letter, I said, voice low and firm. Professional, but sharp enough to draw blood. I want them to feel it. 2 years ago, Logan had toasted me at a company dinner, tie loosened, grin sloppy. To Linda, the wizard who makes the impossible happen. The room had clapped. Samantha, new then, had stared at me like I was a goddess. Now he'd traded me for a selfie stick with ambition. Driving home, I didn't feel small anymore. I felt like a hurricane with a target, wind howling in my veins. Emily texted, Mom, whatever you're cooking up, make it biblical. I've got your back. Realizing I held the keys wasn't just power, it was a reckoning. My hands shook, not from shock, but from the weight of every late night they'd taken for granted. If you're loving this comeback, smash that subscribe. I'm unleashing hell next. Monday crashed in like a freight train on fire. My phone buzzed with desperation. Logan, HR, Samantha. Can we talk? Urgent. Please. Each message more frantic than the last. I brewed a fresh pot of coffee, ignored them all, and pruned hydrangeas in my backyard while Everline imploded behind the scenes. First Monday in 7 years without a cubicle, and I wasn't letting their panic ruin the birdsong. At 10:15, Tom Walters called, voice tight as a drum. Linda, thank God. Everline's pushing for Riverside clearances this morning, but it's all tied to your LLC. I can't move an inch without your signature. Exactly, I said, cool as ice, snipping a dead bloom. They want to bypass me? Tell them to start over, 6 months, minimum, through the city's standard hellhole. They're screwed, he groaned, papers rustling in the background.
No, Tom.
They're learning. I smirked, brushing dirt off my hands. Rachel's email landed at 11 o'clock, a masterpiece titled Formal Notification, Permit Sign-Off Terms, Carter Compliance Solutions controls Riverside permits, per Clause 17. My terms, $75,000 consulting fee, official credit as regulatory compliance specialist, and a signed acknowledgement of my independence. Sign or stall indefinitely. By 11:07, Logan's voicemail cracked. No more smug drawl, just raw panic. Linda. Huge misunderstanding. Let's talk. Name your price, anything, just call me. I sipped my coffee, smirked, and hit delete. A flower arrangement arrived on my porch with a card. We need you, Samantha. I handed the bouquet to Mrs. Grayson. Allergic to bullshit, I said, my voice steady but my gut churning, not with rage, but with the shadow of a move they'd never see coming. I drove downtown to meet Benjamin Hart, Riverside's $12 million investor, in his sleek glass office overlooking the river. He was pissed, pacing like a caged lion. My money stalled over a signature? What the hell, Linda? Not just a signature, I said, sliding my laptop over with a steady hand. Legal authority. Everline's screw-up. I showed him the files. Every timestamp. Every agreement proving I was the linchpin, not some expendable cog. He studied them, then grinned, slow and sharp as a blade. Hire you directly? Same fee. Bonuses for hitting compliance deadlines. Deal, I said, heart slamming against my ribs like a war drum. Monologue Noi Tom. They called me Granny.
Cute.
Dismissive. But they forgot. Grannies raise empires. They survive wars, bury husbands, and still bake the damn cake. I wasn't just surviving. I was restructuring the battlefield. Hearing Logan's voicemail crack wasn't just sweet. It was a mirror-shattering. Every granny they'd sneered echoed back, and I smiled, tasting blood in the air. Back home, Logan left 4 voicemails, each more unhinged. Linda, we can fix this. And Samantha one, dripping with fake pity. Linda, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for this. I let them pile up like ashes. Rachel called, giddy as a kid on Christmas. Hart's contract's in. You're his Omaha go-to for 2 years minimum. I watched the sunset from my kitchen window, smiling. Let them drown in their panic. Last year, Samantha had shadowed me on a permit run, scribbling notes. You're amazing, Linda, she gushed, all wide-eyed innocence. Now I saw the knife behind a grin and the coffee dates with Logan she'd never mentioned. Subscribe if you're cheering for this reckoning. Next part's a bloodbath. Wednesday morning, the Omaha World Herald dropped the hammer. Hart Ventures dumps Everline over permit fiasco. The article roasted them. Negligence, mismanagement, a catastrophic failure to maintain critical relationships. My name glowed mid-page. Linda Carter, now with Hart Ventures, takes over compliance. A photo showed me outside city planning, stylus in hand, owning their mess like a queen reclaiming her throne. I didn't write the story, but I'd whispered to the right ears, old friends in the press who owed me for keeping their scoops alive. Narrative's a weapon, and I wielded it. My inbox exploded. Developers I'd worked with decades ago. Old colleagues from rival firms. They should have known better than to cross you, Linda. A few sent gifs of popcorn popping. Then Samantha called, voice a shaky whisper. Linda, I'm sorry.
I didn't know they'd.
You smiled in my chair that day. I cut in, voice a blade slicing through her wine. Save it for your next filter, Samantha. I didn't want this, she stammered. Logan forced me. He said it was me or you. Twist. Forced her? My gut twisted. Then my phone pinged. A leaked email from Samantha to Logan, dated a week before my firing, forwarded by an anonymous ex-colleague. Linda's too good. Get rid of her before she takes over. I can handle Riverside. I didn't leak it, but I knew exactly who would. People remember who covered for them when layoffs came early last year. 6 months ago, Samantha had hugged me after I'd fast-tracked a permit for her first solo pitch. You're my hero, Linda, she'd gushed, clutching my old leather planner and calling it vintage. Now I saw the script. She'd been rehearsing my exit all along. I printed the email, hands steady, folded it into quarters, then slipped it into that same planner. Funny. Turns out I'm not the relic she is. Logan's 3 p.m. email landed, a pathetic grovel titled, Let's Be Reasonable, Higher Salary, Permit Compensation, Public Credit, Come Back, Linda. We'll make it right. I forwarded it to Rachel with 2 words. Too late. At Hart Ventures, Benjamin axed Everline cold in a packed conference room. They're off Riverside, effective immediately. Eastgate Designs in. My jaw dropped. Everline's nemesis, the firm they'd mocked for years. Linda, you're my city lead now. Fast-track Riverside and the next 3 projects. Vindication burned through me like whiskey on a cold night. Outside, I passed Logan on the curb, slumped, tie loose, phone dangling in his hand. A ghost of the prick who'd fired me with a shrug. He didn't look up, but I did, toward a horizon I'd already started sketching. That night, Emily appeared on a local news segment, clutching my Permit Queen mug. My mom taught me justice isn't loud, it's lethal, she said, eyes fierce. She's rewriting the gospel now. My chest swelled. My girl was my megaphone. Unmasking Samantha's email didn't just reload my fury, It carved her name into my war chest. She'd played the ingenue, but I'd play the executioner. Hit subscribe, Everline's toast, and this twist just lit the fuse for round 2. 3 months later, I stood at Riverside's groundbreaking, the crisp morning air sharp with fresh soil and steel. My navy blazer bore Carter-compliant solutions in clean white thread, a badge of everything they'd tried to erase. Benjamin Hart turned the first shovel of ceremonial dirt beside city officials. Cameras flashed like lightning. City bigwigs, people who'd once ignored me in meetings, dismissed me as the permit lady, now lined up to shake my hand, beg for coffee dates, pitch contracts like I was their new best friend. The Omaha World-Herald dubbed me the permit whisperer the next day, quoting Herald from city planning. Linda Carter knows more about Omaha's regulatory system than anyone alive. Projects fly with her. She's rewriting the rules. In a press Q&A, a reporter asked about ageism, her mic hovering. "Don't beg for a seat at their table," I said, steel in my voice, eyes locked on hers. "Build your own, and flip theirs when they least expect it. Experience doesn't expire. Only the fools who ignore it do." Riverside was just the start. After signing with Hart, I landed 3 new clients, 2 major developers and a healthcare group building a $20 million outpatient campus. Then I made a call. I wasn't hoarding this win. I was opening the door. I hired Janine, 58, a zoning guru phased out by her firm for a VP's niece, and Melissa, 55, a land use attorney, early retired during a merger. Both burned with the same quiet fury I'd once bottled up. We launched an internship for women over 40, career pivoters, return-to-work moms, fighters like me. Valerie, 47, cried in our first team meeting. I thought it was too late for me. Now I feel unstoppable. Everline? 2 more contracts evaporated by summer's end. Samantha bailed for a PR gig after her email leaked. Logan scapegoat, roasted on X as the intern who tanked a Titan. Logan resigned under pressure. No press release, no farewell party, just a quiet fade into irrelevance. Emily visited that weekend, beaming over takeout pizza. "Mom, you didn't just win. You rewrote the game," she said, eyes glistening. "I used to think you loved work more than me." Her voice broke. I was wrong. I set my slice down, throat tight. "I missed your graduation for them," I said, nodding at the faded photo she'd slid across the table. "This," I tapped my blazer, "is me giving that time back."
To you, to them.
She hugged me, tears soaking my shoulder, and I held her like a lifeline. That morning, my phone lit up. Seattle, LA, Austin. "We need a Carter revolution," they said. I grinned, tracing a map on my desk. Omaha is just the spark. This fire's going national. Epilogue teaser. Next up, Seattle's zoning department just hired a new head, a man who once called me a fossil. Let's see how long he lasts. From granny to empire wasn't just a win, it was a resurrection. Every scar from 7 years bled into this moment, and I stood taller, my shadow swallowing their ruins. Subscribe for more stories of grit and glory. This is just the dawn of something bigger.